working?
Oh, we're live.
Cool. Hi everybody, we're just figuring this out. There we go. All right. Hi, welcome to In-Air's Kitchen. So, I am still learning about YouTube's live streaming app, like months in. They keep changing it and it's awful. But we're finally, I think, streaming to a scheduled episode. So hopefully that's helpful for people to find. I'm about to do a tomato cucumber salad, but I thought we would open this little bag first. We're trying, when I started doing the show at the beginning of COVID, I think that partly it was just a reaction to people asking questions of what do I do with these vegetables at home, because we've done a vegetable distribution to try to get some of our farmers connected to customers. And that was a big part of doing the shows, trying to direct those of you who are watching us and interested in what we're doing, trying to direct you to spend some of your dollars on really beautiful produce from farmers who are affected by everything that's going on. So restaurants are being affected, but also distributors and producers are being affected. So that was one of the original inspirations for the show. And now that we've started the restaurants back up and we've started the box meal program, Clover, I'm still doing the show here and there, a little less often than we did before. But we still have the same ambition to try to connect people's dollars to people that we think are really doing fun stuff with food. So with the boxes, we came up with this idea of including like a little surprise gift in each box. So it's not exactly like advertised or part of the price, but it's just a little add-on that we're throwing in. And we're using these little gifts to help highlight some of the local businesses that we really love. I've got to write a blog post about this, so I'm like overdue for that. But one of these businesses that we really love is Union Square Donuts. We actually hosted a pop-up of their donut shop next to our commissary for a while. And I think a lot of folks at Clover really love Union Square Donuts. And this is a little example of the gift that comes in the boxes. I think we're going to do these for the next 2 weeks. So today I think was the first day we were doing it. And I got a seasonal box. And with that came the donuts. So I thought we'd get these out. And you guys can snack on them a little bit. I should have made some iced coffee. You can have them. I'm pretty sure that these are vegan. And I really love the work that Josh's doing, and we've been friends with these guys for a long time. And I hope that those of you who haven't yet found Union Square Donuts might have a chance to taste them. And better yet, you may have a chance to go by and buy some of their donuts. We're also going to be adding Union Square Donuts dozens as a pickup option. So if you're coming in, I'm not sure if we're going to do it every day of the week, it might just be on Saturdays, but you're going to have an option to add on a dozen donuts to your Clover meal box. I think it'll work for deliveries too. So again, just in the spirit of trying to bring everybody together, you guys want a little bit more? I think let's try this one.
Yes, I would love to try that.
Oh, there you go. You can have a little bit. Come, you can have a little if you want to. I feel like this one was called Brambleberry or something like that. There's a fun name for it. I'm just gonna wash this knife off so we don't have sugary tomatoes later. All right. Now, let's get on to the rest of this recipe. So, this is something, when we're thinking about some of our favorite fresh tomato recipes, we were trying to celebrate this time of year, which is one of my favorite times of the whole year. Actually, it's a separate story. When I was a little boy, the first recipe I ever made, one day I was probably quite a bit younger than you, Violet. I was probably like 6. My dad said, "Harry, you get to make a recipe for dinner tonight, and you can make anything you want." And my recipe I made was going out to the garden, and I got tomatoes, and I got mayonnaise, and I sliced up the tomatoes, and I put dollops of mayonnaise on the tomatoes. It actually doesn't sound great, but it's really yummy, and that was the first recipe I think I ever remember doing, and I felt really special about it because I was this little guy, and we all had that for dinner with some other things. But I love tomatoes. I've loved tomatoes for a really long time, and the best tomatoes are at this time of year, and sometimes a pretty short season here in New England. We have some really beautiful heirloom tomatoes we're going to be working from today. Some of these are from our garden, some are from Verrill Farm, some are from a farm stand in Western Mass. I've become a tomato collector this time of year. Every time we pass a farm stand with some heirloom tomatoes, we grab a few. They're all really yummy and delicious. And this salad we're making today, this is a salad that's in every chickpea fritter sandwich we make at Clover. So in our restaurants, we prep this every single morning because it has to be fresh. And so a lot of people that work at Clover get really familiar with making the salad. We're calling it a tomato cucumber salad. When I learned this salad, it was taught to me as an Israeli salad. And then I was calling it that, and then I made somebody upset. I offended somebody. Somebody said, that's not an Israeli salad. That should be called Lebanese salad or something. So now we call it tomato cucumber salad or cucumber tomato salad. I mean, I don't think there's any interest in offending anybody, but I think what's most, and I don't pretend to understand all the intricacies into that naming, but it is really interesting to think that like somebody would call a salad an Israeli salad, right? I mean, think about my cultural equivalent would be if we call this an American salad. I mean, it's clearly something that's like well loved and really common. And this is a super, super, super simple salad. This might be one of the simplest recipes we're going to do on the show. But it like a lot of really simple recipes, it benefits from being a little bit careful with what you're doing and also working with really great ingredients. And so that's what we'll be doing today. But we just need tomatoes, cucumber, lemon juice, and salt. And I added parsley. We don't use parsley in the one that we do at Clover, but I had some in the garden and I think it'll be really yummy. You can have more, sorry. You can also add onions to this if you want. You can add bell peppers if you'd like. So you can fancy it up a little bit. But the one that we make for the sandwich, we don't put raw onions in because it collides with the rest of the sandwich. And the salad is really yummy in either way. So play around with it however you want. If you don't have a lemon, you could use a lime. I have this organic lime, which doesn't look very green, but it's going to taste just fine. It's still fresh enough. And then we're going to use this instead of lemon. You could also use some sort of white wine vinegar or something like that, but you do want some acid to bring into the salad. Should we get started?
Yeah.
All right. So what we're going to do is start out with the cucumber here. I'm going to bowl. We'll be making the salad into this bowl. And what I'm going to do with the cucumber is I'm just going to take off the two ends. So these are like the tough part where it's growing off the vine. And when I do that, it gets rid of that tough part. I'll put it in the compost. But it also gives me a really nice spot to catch with this peeler. There's different kinds of peelers. This is the kind I have at home. At Clover, we use a different style of peeler, which is really popular in the restaurant industry, called the speed peeler. And the handle on that one's facing like this, and you go like this. But the idea is you generally are going to pull the peeler towards your body. If you have this style peeler, you're going to use your thumb to guide it. If you haven't done this before, if you use a speed peeler, you're sort of going to use your fingers to guide it. And you're going to try to do that in one smooth shot. You want to do it? And we're just striping this. I'm not trying to take off all the skin. You know from watching the show, I really love leaving skin intact, and especially if you're using organic ingredients. Here you go, sweetie. You got it. Nice job. Especially if you're using organic ingredients, the skins are not as bitter as you might think. You get a lot of extra fiber and other nutrients in there by leaving the skin. In this case, that skin's a little bit tough, and by striking this, I'm just breaking that single tough skin up a little bit, so that when we bite into the little pieces of cucumber, it's gonna be a little easier to bite into them.
Donuts are so good.
Yeah, you can keep eating them. You love them, huh? I knew you would. That's why I was telling you guys. I was like, come join us. All right, so what I'm doing here is I made planks. These are what we call planks of cucumbers. See that? And then once I have that plank made, I'm cutting it a long way. So I'm making like a stick with this. There we go. All right. And So going ahead. All right. So we've gone ahead and cut these into sticks, and now we're going to come through and cut them across the stick direction. And what we're doing is making little cubes. And this is like a nice size that we're aiming for. Sometimes we make this larger, sometimes we make this smaller. We actually, at Clover, we generally like it, and look at this, I didn't cut the plank there, so that one's a little thick. I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing as I was talking. We tend to make these more like smaller when we're doing the sandwich, and then we make the dice a little bit larger. When did I get you?
No,
just
going
good looking. And then we'll make a larger dice sometimes when we're doing just the salad on its own. I'm hitting something like in between here, so I describe this as like a medium dice. So just going ahead and dicing up these cucumbers. Okay, so we have all these diced cucumbers now. And then we're going to take a tomato. Which one do you want to pick?
Sure.
Which one do you want to do today?
I'll do this one.
That one looks beautiful. All right, I'm going to take this tomato and wash it off. I'd already washed the cucumber before the show started. You know, I'm feeling this one, Violet, and it's feeling a little less ripe. So let's do this one. It's a little more ripe. Now, if you're wondering what I'm feeling there, it's just like the softness or hardness of the tomato. A lot of tomatoes, if you leave them on the vine all the way to when they get super ripe, sometimes you don't get to eat them. We have that problem at our house. And it's also can become difficult to transport them. So often tomatoes are left until they're ripening, but not super overripe. Which is probably what we were dealing with over there. And it will be better after a day or so. Now I did something, I took out that core. I held my hand on this paring knife to stop it from going too deep into the tomato. And then I went around, and this one had this is like cracking that happens with some of these larger varieties. So I just cut some of that out that I thought would be tough. I could cut this one out too. But don't go overboard on that, but cut out a little bit of that. Then I brought it over and I took off the skin side. So I just took a very small amount. I didn't really waste much flesh, but look at all that skin we removed.
Oh, yeah.
And that's gonna make that bottom piece like more pleasant for eating. And so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut this into planks, similar to the cucumber planks. There we go. And then I'm gonna go ahead and cut those planks into sticks, similar to what we were doing before. Then I'm going to come across the sticks and dice them. So now we have nice diced up little tomatoes. This one's an odd shape, but we'll get it to roughly the same dimensions. There we go. Now, you can decide what ratio you want to do this at. Right now, I'd say this is like maybe 2-to-1 cucumber to tomato. We're going to aim for something that's more like 1-to-1. Maybe we do this one.
Tomatoes are the best.
Yeah, they really are. I know, my mouth's watering too. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing we were doing before. Just taking this, using my finger as like a stopper on that paring knife, taking out the core. Then I'm going to come over here. You can see I'm just going to take a little bit off of that. It's mostly skin. It's going to make that bottom slice a lot more usable. There we go. We were talking a little bit about this yesterday with slicing tomatoes. You really don't want to push downward with downward force. You want to let your knife do the slicing. So I'm a very soft touch with the tomatoes. So this particular activity brings me back to the food truck days. Like most of the hours I logged doing this were on the MIT food truck a long time ago, but it was something we had to do every single day before we opened up the awning for lunch. All right, there we go. And I'm talking about this as an ingredient in our falafel sandwich, but it is delicious on its own, which is how we're going to be doing it today. All right, so I just get myself a serving spoon there. That's just so I can mix that in a little bit and see how it's looking. Yes, sweetie. What's that? Oh, you're wondering if there's questions? Yeah. It's up to you to entertain everybody below. Yeah, do a dance? Alright. Okay. Violet wanted to see the questions, so she's on that. And now, here we have the cucumber tomato salad. That's like the level of cucumber tomato ratio that I wanted to hit. And we're gonna add some lemon juice, well, in this case, lime juice, into this. So I'm just cutting open the lime. You want to add a little bit of acid, so we're going to do that lime there. And this is something that we don't have as an ingredient in the salad that we do at Clover, but I have really beautiful parsley in my garden, and I think it's worked really well for this. The other things you could add in would be bell peppers and onions if you wanted to. Okay. And then the last thing I'm going to add there is some salt. And we're going to do about probably about a half a teaspoon of salt, maybe a quarter of a teaspoon of salt. Let's see how that works. Do you want to go get some spoons for us to taste this with?
Yes.
So I'm just mixing it around. And I don't want to, it's a lot of delicate stuff, especially the tomatoes. So I don't want to smash at them. So just think a little bit when you're doing this kind of thing about what you're dealing with and what you want to do with it. So in this case, I'm like, as I'm reaching around with this, I'm not like smashing back and forth. I'm reaching under and so holding it. And I'm just making sure I've got the lemon juice and the salt and the parsley evenly distributed in there. And dive in for a bite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
A little more salt.
Mm-hmm. So we had about a quarter of a teaspoon in there. Now about half of a teaspoon. Sorry, Glenn. I look at this as ratios. So if you were going to make this with fewer tomatoes, use fewer cucumbers. Tomatoes really love salt, so if you want to get to that place where you're getting all the savory notes in the background, it's tasting super yummy. So it's a really, really simple recipe, but it's really delicious and a really nice accompaniment, whether you're having hummus or some Middle Eastern meal or something else. You could put this on its own, you could put this with a little bit of lettuce. So it's a really yummy place to be. You can mix it with some bulgur. That's our cucumber tomato salad. Thanks for joining. We're going to be on every single day this week, 4 to 5, just doing recipes about heirloom tomatoes. Tomorrow, I think that the schedule Lucia sent out said that we were going to do fresh tomato sauce for pasta. And I think we may change that up and do ratatouille instead. I love the pasta idea, but I really love ratatouille too, so it's back and forth. But we might do that instead tomorrow. Yeah.
So there's a question, Simon, that's you, but it says, If you have leftover salad, would you recommend storing it in its juices or drain before storing? But it says Jane who. Oops, that question was for me.
Good question. All right. So I would store it as juices because you do have some juice coming out of the tomatoes here, but that juice is super flavorful. And if you're putting this in, this is really something that's best eaten fresh. This is why we make it right before we serve at Clover. But if you were to save it, I would save it in its juices. And I like the juices, but obviously, like maybe if you're plating this on a plate, you might sort of hold it toward the side and then pull it out because you don't want too much juices on the plate. But the juice is really flavorful and yummy. All right, is that it for questions for today?
That is it for
Okay.
questions.
Well, I really love simple recipes. I hope this inspires some of you to grab some of your tomatoes and cucumbers and make a little salad with them.